Burnout is real. There's a lot of pressure to make sure that when you distinguish between who's going to get discharged and who's going to be admitted. When you get admitted, there's always pushback from whoever you're admitting them to, whether it be the hospitalist or the intensivist or whomever the specialty is that you have to explain yourself.
Right.
Now, that's the easy thing to do for an ER doctor, but a lot of times most of your patients will be discharged, which means you're taking a chance. If something goes wrong in the next 48 hours, it is your butt. You can lose your license, you can be sued. So every single patient, you are basically putting your license on the line. And so there's a tremendous amount of stress to that. And even when you admit them, those doctors a lot of times don't want to take that responsibility and that workload on, so they're going to push back on you. And so no matter what you do, there's always going to be pressure, and you have to write these notes in the electronic medical records that are tight. So you're writing extremely detailed notes, and then a third of the time, your billing is denied by insurance companies. After you have an EMR, coder, a scribe, and hours after your shift completing your note to airtight, they deny you a third of the time. That's what we're dealing with when you talk about healthcare.
Right.
All that work to do things by the book in good faith for the patient's benefit, and yet insurance agencies really up to 40% of the time give you denials. 40% of the time. That's incredibly dishonest. They know it's dishonest because we're doing standard of care billing with an EMR that tells us what the code should be, with a coder who tells us what the code should be, everything justified, and they just do it because they know they can.
And they just have to negotiate.
And they don't get penalized. They don't get penalized, and it encourages surprise billing from the ER and for the hospital. Oh, I'm sorry, the insurance company won't cover that.
But how do you fix
And
that?
instead of them going back to the court because they know that's going to be, they bill the patient and say, sorry, it wasn't covered. That's against the law. Yet they still do it because they're not getting reimbursed from the insurance company. So what do they do the next time? They got to load up the price to a higher price by people who are covered by premiums to cover all the people that they're denied from. So it's a catch-22. Meanwhile, these same insurance companies receive tens of thousands of fraudulent billing cycles where they're insuring somebody who doesn't even exist. Remember, there was an agency that basically said, let's go ahead and put in some false, they put in a couple applications. Twice accepted, no problem. So they tried 30. Of that, 28 of them were approved, including Ken and Barbie, by the way, with false social security numbers, just to prove a point. That's how ridiculous it is. Yet they got paid for it, never had to pay it back, didn't get penalized. That's a federal offense. You're taking the taxpayers' money fraudulently. They never get held accountable, but when they're supposed to pay their bills, they don't do that either, which is also fraudulent. And oh, by the way, they're making 230% more in net profit than they did before the Affordable Care Act. And they're vertically integrated with PBMs, making tens of billions of dollars per company, by the way. One company's gonna make over $20 billion this year. They have 2 of the top 10 Fortune 500 companies in America. Out of them and pharmaceuticals, 4. Almost half of the top 10 Fortune 500 companies in the wealthiest country in the world are big pharma and big insurance. 7 of the top 20. Where your premiums have gone up by at least 90% since the Affordable Care Act. A lot of people, over 1,000, almost 2,000%. So tell me one person who has a cheaper premium since the Affordable Care Act. Not one. It doesn't exist. Now, even take adjusted for inflation, it doesn't exist. A parabolic shift towards spending. Because as they've gotten integrated with Medicaid, Medicare, it's only got more expensive. It's an added expense. Every dollar we spend on healthcare, which, by the way, is $5.7 trillion in America. $5.7 trillion. The third largest economy in the world is Germany. Their economy, their entire GDP is $5 trillion. Their entire economy is $5 trillion. In a $27 trillion economy that ours is, approaching $30 trillion, we spend 20% of our economy on healthcare. Of that, 25% is administrative and waste. 25% of $6 trillion is administrative because of the insurances battling hospital systems, battling doctors. That's the wastefulness. In a day of AI, you shouldn't be able to say, wait for 14 days to tell me no. I put in my billing, you instantly have AI says, no, I need this. Your AI instantly says, no, it's okay. This is what you need. Doom. There's no legal justification for denying a claim via EMR. Either I am doing a fraudulent claim and I need to be prosecuted as a hospital system or a doctor, or you're giving me reimbursement, and either that or you're getting sued. That's fair. Pre-approval process, which I've had somebody sitting right where you're sitting right now. Insurance company, one of the big ones, saying we're done with that whole pre-approval process. We're going to stop denying that is standard of care. Mea culpa, my bad. They told the president the same thing. Since that time, I've literally had cases, but first of all, they're still doing the same bad boy stuff, still denying pre-approval process, which is standard of care. If you have a big lump in your breast or in your testicles or wherever it is, and it needs to be biopsied, that's standard of care. Everybody agrees on that. But they won't give you pre-approval. They make you go through hell and delay it while your cancer is growing in your body, whether it be benign or malignant. They make it worse. They'll say, okay, fine, I'll pre-approve this one. It comes back negative because it's a benign tumor. Still a tumor, but it's benign. So now I'm not going to reimburse you. Why? Because it's benign. You didn't need it, obviously. How would you know that unless you do but this is what they're doing. Eyes wide open. They're doing it on purpose, and they don't care. It is the biggest mafia in America. Do you know why they don't advertise? Everybody else advertises. All the other insurance companies advertise. Car insurance. How many State Farm? The guy with the tan pants. Oh, okay, from State Farm. Right? What about Aflac? What about any other kind of insurance? But not healthcare. Why? Because they don't have to, because it's a monopolistic system. In Wyoming, you got one insurance company. I think Georgia maybe two. How is that possible? No competition. And because of that, they're making record profits. No accountability. When Becerris was taken to, Becerris was the old H&HS secretary for Biden. A lawyer, by the way, not a doctor, not a healthcare professional, a lawyer. When Texas took him to court, all the way up to the Supreme Court, on this reimbursement thing for big insurance, which he was representing big insurance. The Democrats represent big insurance. Warnock, the biggest recipient in his last election of big health dollars in 2020, market. The Democrats and big insurance are in bed together. They want the issue, not the solution. They will never vote 60, they will never allow us to get to 60 votes to solve anything, because they're not interested in solving this. They want the problem because they can run on it as if it's our problem. Oh, the Republicans have the presidency, the Republicans have the Senate, the Republicans have the House. Why aren't they solving it? Well, first of all, it was your problem you guys voted on when you had the supermajority. You voted for the Affordable Care Act, which is dismal failure. Now you refuse to help us solve it because we don't have a supermajority. We can't solve it. And every time we come up with a solution, held it accountable to come up with a good idea of improving it, you voted down because you want to run on this as if it's our problem. When even the expiring supplementation for Medicaid was by design 100% voted for by Democrats, voted against by the Republicans, and yet it's our fault. This is like saying the Republican Party is the reason we had slavery. Oh, wait a minute. That's exactly what the Democrats do. The Republicans are against black people. Wait a minute. I think it was the Democrats that were literally run by the KKK. The Democrats literally fought on the wrong side of the Civil War, wrong side of civil rights movement, wrong side of every major advancement in colored people, and yet they blame Republicans for being the problem. We were founded on abolitionism. Lincoln became president shortly after the party was established, and yet we're the party of racism? I doubt that.